What's up, everybody? It's your boy Twisty Punch, and in today's video, we're going to be listening to what an aspiring comedian has to say. But before we do that, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and share the video because it really helps me out. And with that said, let's get the interview started. Here we go!
I've been a big fan of comedy ever since I was young. The people who actually kind of got me into comedy starting out had to be hands down Jeff Foxworthy and the Blue Collar Boys, Ron White and all that good jazz. And as I was growing up, I wound up listening to some more comedians along the way. And aside from the Blue Collar Boys, some of the more favorite ones are Lewis Black, Gabriel Iglesias, and a couple of the more offensive comedians, but that's just too much to list. But I love to try to make people laugh in general. It's just something that most people don't really realize that sometimes if you give joy, you receive joy by seeing their smile. I'm a little bit of a drifter, but at the same time, I try to go with the flow. And whenever it comes to meeting people, I'm more of an introvert, but I try to put myself out there. Uh, One particular scenario that I would normally say is that whenever it comes to meeting people online, it's a whole new day and age, and people don't really realize sometimes that you could actually make an impact over the internet. And I mean, I personally don't really get out too much, so this is kind of like my alternate means of socializing. I started out on IMVU, which is a chat system that I started way back in 2005, roughly whenever it started coming out. And then over time, the well kind of grew dry, and I decided to stop chatting a while. And then I heard about VR chat and jumped on board.
You talked about having an impact on people. Who has had an impact on you?
Well, I'd have to say it's a bit of a mixed bag, but whenever it came to someone that was rather impactful, uh, back whenever I started out IMVU, I started learning about accessing the internet. I was pretty much a sheltered person growing up. But during the time, I had formed a whole bunch of friends with an online group known as the Naira Knights. And as a result, we were at least 1,000 strong as far as guild members go. And because of the influence of me meeting a certain few people who were dedicated to hanging out and just trying to help the community, as far as Silicon Valley would go, we became rather impactful in such a way that for a good time we actually stopped people from trying to hurt themselves in any particular reason. Well, I've always been a creative mind. I just felt like I haven't really found the right kind of way to express it. Sure, I honestly don't mind going over there and doing comedy, making people laugh. But personally, I've always been told that I was a really good writer. As far as writing would go, I've actually been in the process over the years of trying to mind child of various aspects of a project that I've been doing, where basically a hero uh, has his story told, but it's like a story within a story, I guess you could say, because 300 years before his birth, his ancestor founded the entire nation in which he resides in.
Well, that's cool, man. That's cool. You do that in your spare time, or it's just something that you're actively doing?
In my spare time, I've been doing that since roughly about 2012. I was highly encouraged to start trying to write, and on the side, I try to do a little freelance writing here and there for people. Granted, my name hasn't really gotten out there too far yet, but I've actually assisted a friend online with creating a video game. And although the video game was buggy, I was told that the villain character that I helped write was so menacingly disturbing that it could have been like a reward winning character.
Oh, wow, that's pretty amazing. That's real cool. I guess
Per-
the comedy kind of stems from that, huh? Having you know, being an adept at writing.
well, as far as writing goes itself, I could honestly tell you it's a bit of a natural born gift as far as being passed from generation to generation. although a good deal of us have not published our work as far as my family goes. One thing I can mention to you is that it's sort of a personal and sympathetic kind of deal for me. Is that my father, whenever he was married to my mother, he made this one particular poem that represents him as a butterfly and his wife as a rose. And within this particular talent, it branched off to my mom, who wound up making entire books worth of poetry, but never had it published. And myself, as far as I go, it's just one particular project that I've been working on a very, very long time. And it's just like I feel as if I'm my own worst critic, but at the same time, it builds a structured story.
So how much time do you usually dedicate to your comedy?
Well, it's just I'm actually starting to actually practice my comedy on a more regular basis by going to various rooms and VR chat. There was one such incident where I attempted to perform comedy in real life, and even though I was successful, I started getting a little nervous because, admittedly, those in the bar that I was doing the comedy show for, they were more focused on having a good time and drinking rather than paying attention to the current act. The place I went to was more of a open mic karaoke place, but whenever I did do my comedy, there was three different women who were just in the front part, just giggling away at my comedy. And I'm like, oh yeah, I finally got somebody laughing at this. So afterwards, I went up to them and thanked them for the show. And one of them was rather attractive, and embarrassingly enough, the woman that was laughing the hardest walks up to me, grabs my shoulders, and then goes and says, "Hey, I'm from an acting class. I just wanted to go ahead and say that I love your energy, but I wanted to go ahead and give you a couple of tips as far as your comedy goes." I was dying and with a huge embarrassment blush. My sister thought I was about to get a phone number in the process. And at the same time, I was just like, well, I'll take your advice, but this is a first. I didn't expect this to happen.
That's pretty cool, yo. That was in person?
Yes.
Have you been back?
Sadly, no. Ever since I got to work at both a casino and a local retail job, my life's been pretty busy. But I mean, I still try to make time for hanging out with friends online, and on occasion, whenever it calls for it, Wednesdays, I happen to do some Dungeons and Dragons in a private server. I happen to be their host/dungeon master, which kind of helps practice my writing a little bit.
What would you say to someone who wants to get into comedy?
What I would say to people getting into comedy is, in the words of Jeff Foxworthy, true stuff is always the funniest. You always have to see about finding stories that kind of make you laugh and hopefully share it in a manner that would actually make others laugh. Start out small. Start out with like a couple of people at a time. Then work your way up onto a big group. Then who knows, maybe go to like a small party or something and practice there, and eventually, hopefully, one of you guys will take my advice enough to get on the big stage. And if I manage to give out this advice and a future comedian took my advice, then I wish you well.
So why is comedy so important to you?
It's not just important for me, it's important for everybody else to at least share their stories, because without stories make people laugh, there is no creativity in this world. And without no creativity, there is no imagination. That's basically something that a person had told me once. And that's something I wanted to share with you guys as well, because that's something I kind of go by. It's always important to have some sort of creativity, even if it's to brighten somebody's day at least a little bit. You've shared a little bit of joy in your life, and that helps better people along the way.
All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you haven't already. Stay tuned for next week's video, which is coming out next week. I don't know what else you want from me, so